Okay, so by the end of class today, you need to be able to do problems involving how businesses allocate resources so that they produce at least cost, and how businesses allocate resources so that they can maximize profits. And so let me talk about a couple of things here. Okay, so first of all, as a business is thinking about, should I hire a worker, right? Or should I buy a machine? So if you think about like a factory that makes textiles, okay, so the entrepreneur, the owner of the factory has to decide, should I hire a worker or should I buy a sewing machine? I've only got so much money, right? I want to produce more. I can hire more workers to sew textiles, or I can buy a sewing machine and give that to one of my current workers and let them maybe produce a little bit more than they normally would, okay? What they care about there is the productivity of the resource. So how much extra output would I get from the worker versus how much extra output would I get from the machine, the sewing machine. And they care about the prices of those things. How much will it cost to hire the worker? How much will it cost to purchase a machine, okay? And so they're going to make the determination about which one to hire based on that information, okay? We'll say that a business, and we call that the extra output from a worker, the worker's marginal product, okay? So this curve here with output on the vertical and units of labor on the horizontal is called the marginal product curve. We've already covered this when I talked about marginal cost, right? The shape of the marginal product curve explains the shape of the marginal cost curve. They're sort of mirror reflections of one another, okay? Okay, so what we see here with marginal product is that marginal product is decreasing, and we call it the law of diminishing marginal returns, right? So we've already covered that, okay? And so you want to always, in this unit, keep that in mind. That if you always have in mind that marginal product is decreasing as you increase the amount of labor or the amount of any factor that you hire, okay, that will help you to understand a whole bunch of stuff, okay? With these least cost problems, okay? So imagine, so what we're trying to figure out is how can the business produce at the least cost. What the business is trying to do here is it's trying to get the most amount of output for the lowest cost, right? The prices of these resources represent the cost, right? And these marginal products represent the output, okay? So they're trying to maximize the amount of output per dollar spent, okay? So imagine a situation where a business decides it wants, this textile business decides it wants to produce more shirts, okay? Well, let's say the marginal product of hiring a worker, so you hire one more worker, and you get 10 more shirts from hiring that worker. And that worker costs you $1 a day to hire. So the worker, you pay that worker $1 a day, and you get 10 additional shirts per day from hiring that worker. Now imagine you could buy a sewing machine, and that sewing machine gives you 5 extra shirts and costs you $2 to purchase. Which one do you buy? You hire the worker, right? You pay the worker $1 and you get 10 units. It's makes much more sense. It's more rational than buying a sewing machine for $2 and only getting 5 units of extra output, okay? And so what the business will do in this situation is hire the worker. Now, remember what I said a minute ago, if you always keep in mind the fact that marginal product is decreasing as you increase input or inputs, then that will help you understand some stuff. Okay, so we hire a worker, okay, the first worker. What happens to the marginal product of the when you go to the second worker?
It decreases.
It decreases, that's right. Okay, so you keep in mind that now the business has to make another decision. Okay, if we want to produce even more, do we hire another worker? Or do we then buy the sewing machine? Well, let's say with the second worker, the marginal product reduces to 5. Prices of the two resources stay the same. So the business should do what? Right, hire another worker. Okay, then it's confronted with the same decision. Okay? Okay, let's say the marginal product of the third worker is 3 units of output. Okay? Does it hire the worker or the machine?
Worker.
Hires the worker. And it will continue to hire workers until what? Until the two are equal. And at that point, it will have minimized its cost. It will be producing at least cost. Okay? So again, if you keep in mind the fact that marginal product is decreasing as you increase output, that will help you to understand. So what happens with these problems a lot is we'll just give you the numbers, right? We'll give you the marginal products and the prices, and we'll say, what's this business going to do? Hire a worker or hire capital, right? And if you understand this, then you should be able to do that. Okay. In terms of maximizing profit, you should just think, okay, what's a business going to do? Right? It's going to hire workers or hire resources as long as the extra money, revenue, it gets is great from hiring those workers, or that worker, is greater than that worker's wage, right? Or if it's a sewing machine, they're going to buy the sewing machine as long as the value, the dollar value of the extra output when it's sold is greater than the price of the sewing machine. Okay, so that's just the marginal benefit of hiring a worker or hiring a sewing machine is the amount of extra revenue you get from hiring them. Okay, so that's called the marginal revenue product, okay, MRP. Okay, now in ManQ, MRP is marginal revenue product is expressed as the value of the marginal product. It's the same thing, VMP and MRP. Okay, you need to know that.
MP and MRP?
VMP, value of the marginal product, and the marginal revenue product mean the same thing.
Okay.
Now the price of these goods, well, I'll come back to this in a second. So just know that the marginal revenue product, the amount of extra revenue you get from hiring a worker, is equal to the amount of extra output that worker produces, like in this case over here, 10, times the price of the output, the amount that the output can be sold for. So let's say that in this case we're producing t-shirts. This first worker produces 10 extra units or 10 extra t-shirts when we employ her, right? Let's say that t-shirts sell for $2. So when we hire her, we're adding 10 shirts that can be sold for $2 to our output, or $20 of extra revenue from hiring her. That's 10 marginal product times 2 the price of the good. Okay, or $20. That's that's the marginal revenue product of that first unit of labor over here. Okay, now you know that this is downward sloping. I'm sorry. You know that this will be reducing as you increase workers and as you increase output, because as you increase workers, you know those workers' marginal products are reducing, while the price of the good remains constant as long as you're working in a perfectly competitive industry. Okay, once you go to an imperfectly competitive industry, that changes. Okay, but even in an imperfectly competitive industry, this will still be reducing. It'll just cause this to be reducing by more. Okay, the marginal revenue product to be reducing by more. The main thing to understand here, to know here, is that as you increase units of labor and as you increase units of output of the good, marginal revenue product will be decreasing. Okay, and the business is always going to employ workers, say here, as long as the marginal revenue product, which is just what? The marginal benefit of employing the worker, is greater than the marginal cost, the worker's price, the wage. Okay, this is also known as the price of the worker. The wage is the marginal revenue cost. Sorry, take that back. Marginal resource cost. You'll see this expressed in some books as the MFC, the marginal factor cost. Okay, so the MRP is sometimes expressed as the value of the marginal product. You need to know that these two things are the same. And the marginal resource cost is sometimes expressed as the marginal factor cost. These two are the same thing, different language for the same concept. Okay, so the business will produce as long as this is greater than this. And it'll produce up to the point that this is equal to this. And so up to the point that the value of that fraction is 1. Okay, so the business will produce up to the point that the marginal revenue product of labor over the price of labor equals the marginal revenue product of capital over the price of capital, as it will purchase capital up until the point that this fraction, or this fraction here equals 1. Okay, and so both are equal to 1. At that point, they will have maximized their profits. Okay? Thanks. You set that off. It's a wrap.